Which choice best describes a difference in how the authors of Text 1 and Text 2 view Barbara Tuchman's The Guns of August? Okay, so here we're going to just go ahead and read both little passages and try to sum up the main points that each of them have to offer in terms of this book. So, passage 1, despite its beautiful prose, The Guns of August has certain weaknesses as a work of history. It fails to address events in Eastern Europe just before the outbreak of hostilities, thereby giving the impression that Germany was the war's principal instigator. Had Tuchman consulted secondary works available to her by scholars such as Luigi Albertini, she would not have neglected the influence of events in Eastern Europe on Germany's actions. Okay, so in one word, I would say that this, the main criticism is that, it's incomplete. It's missing certain perspectives that she might have consulted. It's not as comprehensive as it could have been because it fails to address certain events. And then what about text 2? Well, it says that Barbara Tuchman's The Guns of August is an engrossing, meaning, interesting, if dated introduction to World War I. Her analysis of primary documents is laudable, deserving of praise, but her main thesis that European powers committed themselves to a catastrophic outcome by refusing to deviate from military plans developed prior to the conflict, that analysis is implausibly reductive. Okay, so some sort of heavy-duty vocabulary here. Implausible, I think you know what that means. It's just not plausible. It doesn't really make sense. It's not realistic. It's not credible. And then reductive we could say means more or less like simplistic. It's taking a complex situation and reducing it down to maybe a simplistic sort of explanation that doesn't take into account certain factors. Okay, it's reductive, it's incomplete. Now, those aren't the exact same thing, but let's just see how far that gets us. Okay, the author of Text 1 believes that the scope of Tuchman's research led her to an incorrect interpretation, while the author of Text 2 believes that Tuchman's central argument is overly simplistic. Now, how about that? I did not remember the answer. I've certainly looked at this question before. Maybe subconsciously I remembered that, but I think this is a good example of the kind of thing we want to look for on a question like this. We don't expect to see the exact same words, but we should expect to see close synonyms or mappings between the words. And so simplistic and reductive. And is it her central argument? Yes, her main thesis. So there's another connection. Her main thesis is reductive. Her central argument is simplistic. And then for the first passage, an incorrect interpretation. I think the incorrect interpretation is just the idea that Germany was the war's principal instigator. And so that's definitely going to be our correct answer. But let's look at the others just because we do want to be thorough here. So B, the author of Text 1 argues that Tuchman should have relied more on the work of other historians. Maybe. B, the author of Text 2 implies that her most interesting claims result from her original research. No, that's not a contrast that is made. And so the first part of B, maybe. I mean, it's not so much that she should have just relied more on the work of other historians in general. It's more like, specific ones that she might have consulted. But again, I'd say that that first part of B is not bad. It's not bad, but both parts have to be correct in order for the answer to be correct. So what about C? The author of Text 1 asserts that the writing style makes it worthwhile to read, while the author of Passage 2 focuses exclusively on the weakness of her interpretations of events. I wouldn't say that. I mean, engrossing, is that... I think the main thing I'd say about C is the first part. It says, despite its beautiful prose, it has certain weaknesses as a work of history. It doesn't say that... It doesn't weigh in with a verdict in terms of whether it's worthwhile to read, despite the perceived deficiencies. And really the emphasis is sort of the other way around in terms of, relative to what C has. C C basically says that the writing style outweighs the weaknesses. The passage really, again, says that the weaknesses in the historical analysis sort of outweigh the beautiful prose. And then D, the author of text 1 claims that Tuchman would agree that World War I was largely due to events in Eastern Europe. I do not think that, no. I think the author of text 1 is saying that Tuchman overlooks the importance of events in Eastern Europe. So that would be enough to eliminate D, but we could look at the second part and also see that that's not really an accurate reflection of what the second passage says. But anyway, A is going to be correct, and I think the main takeaway from this one is, again, you want to find this sort of mapping so that you can say, those aren't the, even if they're not the same words, and they're not going to be the same words, they're going to be close synonyms, and you can look at it and say, that is the connection. That is the connection. You'll know that you found the right answer that way.